Greetings to you all. Today we celebrate the feast of the Blessed Virgin Mary, her Immaculate Conception. And it gives me great pleasure to wish you all on the feast of our Mother, who is our Mother, our model and guide. May her example be with you, may her imitation strengthen you, and may you proclaim Christ as she did. God bless you. We have just come together to share a few reflections on the Blessed Virgin Mary. The Blessed Virgin Mary is very important in Catholic devotion, and she has been seen as expressing the will of Christ in all its details. But one difficulty we find, especially when it's a question of devotion to the Blessed Virgin Mary, is it becomes too theological. So much so the ordinary Christian man or woman, they've got a lot of devotion to Blessed Virgin Mary. But when it comes to understanding who the Blessed Virgin Mary is, you get caught up in a lot of theological tangles. And I would just like to share some of these problems which affect the life of the ordinary Christian. Who is Mary? In order to understand this, we go back to Scripture and we find that the Blessed Virgin Mary is the Mother of God, because her Son Jesus Christ is God. But what does this involve? This has been spelled out in the history of the Church in various ways, particularly in 4 truths which focus on the Blessed Virgin Mary. And which are these 4 truths? First, that she is Mother of God. It was defined in the Council of Ephesus 431. That she was perpetually virgin, that she was immaculately conceived. This was defined by Pius IX in 1850, the document Ineffabilis Deus. And finally, that she is assumed into heaven, body and soul, defined by Pius XII in 1950. Now, Mother of God, we understand who it means. But when it's a question of Immaculate Conception, it becomes a bit problematic. We have to get turned to all theological tangles. But I think it can be understood in a bit simpler fashion. First and foremost, what do you mean by saying she's immaculately conceived? Now, one basic truth of our faith is that all have been redeemed by Christ. So Christ is universal Redeemer. And so Mary also has been redeemed by Christ. But what the Church points out is that in the case of Mary, this redemption has taken on a particular form. Mary has not only been redeemed, but Mary has been prevented from falling into sin. And so Mary's redemption is called Preventive Redemption. What do you mean by Preventive Redemption? Maybe an example will clarify the matter. Supposing a young man is climbing a hill, and as he's climbing the hill, his foot slips on the slope and he's about to fall. His father, who's just close by, holds him by the hand and prevents him from falling. Now, to save one from falling into sin is a great deed of goodness. But to prevent one from falling into sin is even a greater deed of goodness. Now it is the understanding of the Church that the Blessed Virgin Mary has been preventively redeemed. Now preventively redeemed means she is prevented from falling into sin. All of us have sinful inclinations, and we've been redeemed by Christ. But Mary is not only has been redeemed by Christ, Mary has been prevented from committing sin, any type of sin, be it original sin or any sin. And so this is a very important factor which separates Mary from others. But by saying that she is preventively redeemed, what is the Church saying? The Church is saying she is what we are called to be. All of us are called to be sinless. Mary is preventively redeemed. All of us are called to go to heaven, Mary has been anticipated the dogma of the Assumption. And so we find that in Mary, what God wanted for us has been preventively focused. That's why Mary is, or the Second Vatican Council used to say, that Mary is what we are called to be. Mary, we are all called to be children of God. Mary is in a special way the Mother of God. We're all to be totally dedicated to Christ. Mary is in a certain way uniquely redeemed by Christ, her virginity. And Mary is called to be without sin. And in Mary, this has been realized in a very particular way through her Immaculate Conception. She not only is prevented from sin, but she's prevented from falling into sin. And finally, you have Mary, who's the Mother of God, who's totally redeemed and is called to be totally redeemed. That's why the Second Vatican Council would use a very interesting phrase to describe Mary. She is model of the Church. What do you mean by saying she is model of the Church? And in Mary we see what everyone is called to be. We are called to be sinless. Mary is preventively redeemed. We are called to be without stain or fault. In Mary this has been realized totally. And this has been defined by two popes. Immaculate Conception by Pius IX and Assumption by Pius XII. What do you mean by definitively redeemed? We said that in Mary, what is a reality for all of us becomes a duty. Mary is not allowed to fall into sin, and so that is it. So if you look at Mary, what do we find? We don't find a highly theological person, but we find a person whom any one of us could imitate. So that's why after the Second Vatican Council, the Council Fathers would describe Mary as the type of the Church. That Mary is what the Church is called to be. And so if you look at Mary from that point of view, we will see that Mary represents the title of exemplarity. She is an example of what we are called to be. Let's ask our Blessed Mother that she may help us through her intercession to be what Christ wants us to be. She is sinless. We are called to be sinless like her. She was preventively redeemed. We have been ordinarily redeemed, but we are called to help in the redemption of all people just as Mary did. And likewise, we are called to follow her and follow her guidance as we journey through life. May our Blessed Mother always be close to us as we continue our journey. Thank you. Ave Maria.
I have traveled many moonless nights, cold and weary, with a baby inside, and I wonder what I've done. Holy Father, you have chosen me now to carry your son.